Welcome to Black, Red, and Blue. I'm AJ, and my co-host here is Steve. We have a game from Kansas City where we have a draw, and this time we're excited. Right, Steve? Ish. Okay, fine. We're excited-ish. So, Steve, you had a unique angle from this game, and I think everybody's dying to hear it, especially after this intro.
Yeah. So I was able to take advantage of the fact that City had the watch party at the Ultra Club there at the park, and it was for free. It's just free tickets and you can go. So I snatched up our tickets and I took my kids and we get up there and it's amazing. I got to tell you, like I texted AJ and I was like, I think I'm ruined because I can't ever go anywhere else again. Like those damn monitors at the top of the ceiling, just flashing colors everywhere. Those big screens. That's awesome. So, and we got to, like, they had the doors open so you can go down and see in the chairs. And like me and my kids, we were just amazed because they were cushioned seats and we put our little tushies in there and it was amazing. And the view was great. And it's just like, I wish they weren't so expensive, but so we picked the seats way in the back. So if you vision, there's like a big auditorium type room. They got giant TVs on either end. And then there's kind of like a hallway off to the back where it's kind of like more exclusive type seating, more intimate type seating. They have swivel chairs. So we parked our butts back there because we wanted the chance to get away. So the game's getting ready to start and we noticed that there's not a lot of audio. Oh, by the way, before we go, the staff were amazing. Utterly amazing. They were giving away a bunch of the die cut stickers and the sunglasses. Super friendly. There had to be over 100 people on there. It was a lot of people for just watching a game on TV. Bunch of kids. So there were some questions on Facebook. Can we bring our kids? Yes. It was so cool. So we'll go back and we're hanging out and the game's getting ready to start. And we noticed that we're not hearing anything yet. So I'm thinking, they probably are they're going to turn the audio on right before the game starts. Game starts. There's no audio. We're just watching it silently on TV. Some people have the game on their phones. And about 6 minutes go by. Still no audio. People start asking, hey, where's the audio? But it's really fun because no one's being an asshole about it because we didn't pay for these damn tickets. So, like, it's just like my wife joked with me that, yeah, you get to watch a game, but you didn't have to pay for it, so we're not going to let you hear it. Like, that was the rub for free tickets. So we're watching, and I realized that they had the TV. They have two different feeds going on. Our TV directly in front of us was on the FS1 feed because the game was on FS1 last night and on Apple. And all the other TVs were on Apple. But the crazy thing is the FS1 feed was about 6 seconds ahead of all the other. And I noticed that when I would get excited for a play, I would go, yeah, woo, or clap. No one else was clapping. Well, then about 6 seconds later, I could hear them. And the people behind me caught on too. And then it became like a joke between us and everyone else in the stand. And when the play was building up for Thor, because it's stone ass quiet in that room because everyone's watching the game and there's no audio. When Thor scored, I just did what I always do. I screamed as loud as I could. Woo! And then when I calmed down, I look over and everyone's looking at me because they didn't know what happened. And then about 4 seconds later, you hear and then everyone else gets excited. The security guards on the other end were like, what is going on? And then they realized, well, then the people where City Park start scrambling because they're recording my reactions and then everyone else's reactions because it's so delayed. And they said that they were trying to get the feed from FS1, but they didn't know how to do it. And they may have broken the system. So they had to have someone come in to fix it. Well, there was no one there because it was 8 o'clock at night. So they had to figure that out. And they never did. So right before first half ended, they announced that if you hadn't gotten a Mick Ultra yet, your first beer was on them. And so I ran over and got a beer. I got my little stampy stamp for getting a beer. I'm getting a free beer. And after the first half ended, they fixed the audio. We could hear, like, oh my God, we could hear. Nah, fam. They put the FS1 audio on. And if you're listening to my story, you understand that audio was 6 or 7 seconds ahead of what was on the TV. And they announced as soon as they did that, hey, everyone, our friends at Budweiser just said that you can have our second beer for free for putting up with this. So I had already getting ready to leave. My son had to go do dog walking, and I wasn't about to have another beer. But like I thought that was solid by the team to do that for the people that could. And I was really amazed by the experience. And if they offer it again, I'm going to do it every time because the team really does seem to care about the fans. So, yeah, but so that's my unique experience. You also had a pretty unique experience. You were not watching it on your couch. What were you doing during this match?
Yeah, so I was down at the Lake of the Ozarks with some family friends and still on a couch watching the TV with the audio in sync, which was great.
That would have been a plus.
The thing that was a bit unusual, however, is when we start texting about an hour before the game, and you had said something about a formation. I was like, no, this has got to be some like weird 4-2-3-1. And then all of a sudden we're looking at it and it's this 3-4-3 type of formation, or you could say a 3-4-2-1, however you want to put it. And such a weird formation, at least for City fans. We haven't seen, to my knowledge, anything like this. This was very unique. And I'm sure there's some people, because there's so much Parker hate for whatever reason, that they probably saw this and like, oh my gosh, we're going to rely on Parker in the middle with just Hebert and Reed on the sides. They were probably freaking out. I'm not going to lie. I was a little sus about this as well. I was thinking, geez, we're going to have Thorson up on top yet again.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a back three. This could be a disaster. But it turned out, and especially in that first half, I felt like this was just a constant onslaught. Like we were just taking it to Kansas City, and they essentially had no answer for this. And what we said something probably, I don't know, it was probably about 5 episodes ago. We kept on saying, hey, we have the defense. Let's sacrifice for the offense, try to push some stuff forward. And what was nice about this formation is, it gave us the possibility in some ways. We have Teuchert, Leuven, and almost kind of playing as a dual attacking mid, like that dual 10. And then you had Klein and Totlin out wide, which should be kind of familiar with us when we play a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, where the wing backs would come forward, which is kind of the same kind of principle here. And then I noticed that Bloom was kind of playing back and Watts was playing more forward, kind of that double pivot between the two. But I actually kind of liked it, and I thought it worked out really well. And I don't know, what did you think about the formation? Because I think that's something that grabbed everybody's attention right away.
Oh yeah,
and even through the game.
Yeah. So when the lineup was announced, I'm getting to the point where with your guidance, I'm able to look at the lineup and kind of predict what the formation is going to be based on just the names alone. And you and I agreed it looked like it was going to be a 4-2-3-1. And when that lineup got posted, I immediately texted you and I was like, is this right? Because I want to say like a month and a half ago or so, maybe it was for the Chicago match, they posted some crazy lineup and I just ran with it. And people online on Facebook were like, dude, that's not going to be the lineup. That's nuts. And it turned out to be wrong. And I texted you and you're like, no, that's not going to happen. Well, I'll be damned. We start the game and in pure silence, because I didn't have audio, we see that was the lineup. And immediately my thought came to our discussion where we talked about, like you said, it's okay to sacrifice some of that defense because we need an offensive attack. And through my ref report kind of study that I do, I found that Kansas City does most of their touches in the midfield. They do barely any touches in the attacking third, and then they do a little bit more in their third. So they do not do a lot of touches in the attacking third. And I thought that if our midfield, if our defensive midfield can hold, then the back line will be fine. And you mentioned a lot of people give it hate on Parker, and everyone should admit the last couple matches weren't great, but my man put on a clinic. He put on an absolute. He was running on both sides of the field, just blocking everything. He was, for us, for 100%, the man of the match, at least for me. Like, it was phenomenal. And in fact,
he was the pre-Berkey. He was
Yes.
the pre-Berkey.
Oh yeah.
Blocking
Yeah,
things before the Berkey.
Yeah, it was nuts. Like Berkey had some pretty phenomenal Berkey type saves, but you gotta just give it to Parker. Parker took out like 5 years of his life and just refound himself. It was great. And then like I don't know about you, but for me, Hebert, we're so damn lucky to have him back. We're just so lucky to have him back. Yes, he was out of position, and that's what allowed them to score that goal late. But that was like the one mistake he made. That was the one mistake he made all night. It was great. So, yeah, what were your impressions on like Parker and then Hebert, maybe the whole back line? Because it looked like it was going to be a
100%.
liability. It could have been a liability, but they were not.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of wanted to step back and mention with formations too is remember, just because you see something like formation wise doesn't mean it's static. So, for instance, one of the things that Matt Baker had talked about, I think it was last week, was how the press started with the striker. And if the striker doesn't really start the press and start that chain reaction, basically you lose the press. And one of the things that we saw last week is despite having our formation is that defensively, we actually shifted to more of a 4-4-2 where we had like two strikers starting the press. And guess what we saw this time? We actually saw something similar where a lot of times we had two people up front kind of as a defensive strikers that started this press. Something I just wanted to kind of mention to everybody. And maybe in future games, we can actually watch for that. The other thing is just because Klein and Totland were both equal, at least when you look at the lineup, doesn't mean that positioning that one wasn't further in the attacking half of the field where one was playing more defensive. Like, for instance, Watson and Blom, they're kind of playing that double pivot. And Blom, a lot of times you had the back three, and then Blom was just in front of Parker. So, anyways, to answer your question, I was actually quite happy with this back line. I felt like defensively, we did pretty darn good. I mean, if you think about it, it was only really that one goal that we messed up on that set piece that led to this. And unfortunately, one little mistake, that's all it takes is one little mistake. And all of a sudden, you have a goal. And then what can you do? It's kind of like the Parker move from last week where we had the own goal. Just one bad. I know I had to bring that up. I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
But it just one little tiny wrong deflection. And all of a sudden, the entire game changes, So no, I was actually quite impressed. The only thing I wasn't impressed by is Blom largely because how many times that poor guy cough up the ball. Like I'm sitting there thinking, when you're in the middle of the field, which he typically is, and you're just outside of your own penalty box, the last place you want to give up that ball is right in the middle, right there.
Yep.
And I counted at least twice, if not three times. My memory's fading. I know, no older, perhaps. So, unfortunately, he did that 2 or 3 times, and that is dangerous. That is a huge liability, which I did not care for. So, I would put a kind of a negative mark. And on FotMob, I had a look. They gave him a rating of 6.4, which was actually the second lowest on the team. Oddly, Teuchert was actually 6.1, which
that was due to his passes. He didn't really connect very well. But okay, let's slide on into Teuchert then. Toy-Gert? I mean, there's so many ways to Teuchert. Yeah, I think it's Toy-Gert, but we'll have the opportunity. I'm sure the team will post that. Are you pronouncing it correctly for his name, which we all definitely need.
100%.
I was so excited whenever I saw his name, and then we got to see him run on the field. What were your impressions of one of our new Germans we got, our new German toys?
Dude, did you see that dribble on the left side? He basically ran through like 3 people, and I was like, holy crap. Like, that was amazing. Now, nothing came out of it, but I was like, holy moly. I don't think I've seen any of our players really do something like that. You know what it kind of reminded me of, at least with that kind of skill, was Celio. Yeah. I know, your heart is breaking right now.
I know.
But,
poor little fella.
Man, I was impressed. But, honestly, I felt like what you said is that there was a lot of non-factors here. But while he was practicing with the team and all that, there's just something about actually being thrown into mix in a real life game experience I'm not going to put too much emphasis on this game, but overall, I thought there was definitely some shining points that you could see that the skill level was a notch above like the average player, I would say.
Right. And I would say that he made Thor look a lot better than he really is. And I think what this does is it shows us just how important having that good passer and that a good midfield can do. Like imagine once Klaus comes back and Klaus has these people feeding him the ball. We got Hartle on the field. It's just we've been saying to just hold on. Like yes, the team isn't great, but just hold on, and it's happening. Like Thor had that early yellow. And then like he had a hell of a shot. I mean, it was a great shot. It was a run of play shot. It was great to see it happen. And it was really good. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, really other than like what I saw, like really no big notes because it was a city match. We scored and then we gave up a goal. It is
of course.
It was I mean, I try to keep my kids kind of stable by saying it's always good to get a point on the road. We got a point on the road. It wasn't good to give up the winning position. However, that stadium was set to explode if they were to score again. And they weren't, and they didn't. And we saw how angry they were and how just upset they were throughout the match. And I'm glad to leave that stadium without giving those monsters a win. And that I'm not talking about the players, I'm talking about the fans. I'm glad that they got to leave their home again this year, 2 times this year, without getting a win from us. So,
dude, we were about 9 inches from winning. That Leuven set piece goal, man, he has amazing pace on it, and I mean, I know a lot of people are saying he hit the post and inaccurate shot. I mean, this guy's putting all the power he has on it, and you can't just kick it straight. Like these guys are curving and bending it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, like that was one heck of a kick, and just that easily it could have been 2 at that point.
Well, and then Thorsten had a shot that just went wide right of the net. Like he almost had a brace last night. And that's just soccer, man.
And so we talked about Thorson, we talked about Teuchert, talked about Leuven, but I gotta say this was a great game by Leuven overall. There was that one really bad set piece. I don't know if you remember this. Like he literally, it was from the right corner. He kicked it so far up and behind the goal. I was like, it looked like a field goal try. Like what was he doing? I mean, we're gonna give him a pass, but I actually felt like he had a pretty good game here. And he was technically in second place because Thor, Watts, Hebert, and Berkey were tied at least on FOTMob with a 7.6 rating, which I think is probably pretty accurate, to be honest. I felt like that was pretty accurate, Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Let me ask you this. So one of your favorite things to do is the polls that we do.
Yeah.
So if anybody listening, if you don't go on Facebook, I would suggest definitely go on the supporter group Facebook pages because Steve posts the polls, or Made Sipper posts the polls that you can take. And I wanted to kind of read off a couple of responses here. So overwhelmingly, let's see, I got to do quick math. 72%, 70% said Thor was offensive man of the match. Berkey was 35% defensive match. Parker was 28%, pretty accurate. And for Wooden Spoon, people put 42% none. And then the second mention was Blom, which I would have put at 21%. I thought he was more of a liability. To give you an idea, by the way, when I was looking at this, 6.5 is kind of the standard rating. Every player starts at 6.5.
Okay.
And they either go higher or lower. So the fact that he was 6.4 means that he was technically a liability based on the ratings. So just FYI there. And the lowest you can get is 3, I believe it is.
Yikes.
So anyway, Steve, sorry about that. But the question I had for you is, who was your offensive, defensive man of the match? And did you have a Wooden Spoon?
I think my offensive man of the match was probably Leuven, just because of the services he had. But, I did see a tweet like about defending Thor, and calling people that didn't like him haters. And I wouldn't classify us as haters. We were not doubters, but we were just like questioning, yes, he's doing better, but better from nothing is not on that much better. But he is getting better. Like as he is getting more experience and, he's getting more training, he's being able to be that guy, that's going to be good when Klaus comes back. He's making better football choices out there. It's not like he's just running up in the crowd and falling or just stopping. Like I saw some better choices out there. So that's great. I'm not ready to hop on the Thor train and start blowing the horn, but it was good to see him not look disastrous, right?
So Steve, do you think people are goal oriented?
Yes.
Or event oriented where you just simply score one goal and then people forget about the rest of your play?
Yes. Do you remember a guy named Azeel Jackson that last year, because he scored some goals and he blew everyone out of the water, and then this year because he recessed to the mean, like the whole team, all of a sudden he was persona non grata? Yes. I do think people are very much oriented on the right now. What's that? Their own confirmation bias, recency bias, like that stuff is real. And people are forgetting the matches he had, and we're slowly building up. It's not like he went from here to here. I think it's more like which is I'm okay with, but I'm not about to crown him as being there yet because we ran Azeel Jackson out on a rail because he couldn't live up to expectations that people made for him. So no.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So I guarantee this is going through people's minds. And this is going to be, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So Klaus is healthy tomorrow.
Yep.
Do you start Klaus, given how much trouble he's had this year so far? Or do you crown Thor the starter? So pretend we're doing a 4-2-3-1, and your only choice is the single striker. Who do you put in and why?
On that top, it's Thor. No, it's not. It's Klaus. See the little Freudian slip. It's Klaus because he's our guy. He's one of our DPs. He is the man we paid for. However, I'm throwing Thor down on one of the wings. Like, let's go ahead and put him out there because if Klaus, gets himself out of position, which he's going to do, we can line him up with pretty well over there. So no, I am starting Klaus. What about you? What would you do in that situation?
Well, so I'm going to be realistic. So let's say Klaus is healthy, right? The good thing is now we have a much more heavy attacking squad. So let's say we're going to run out with the 4-2-3-1, which is realistic, right? The 2 part is obviously going to be Durkin and Lubin, which I love. So then you got the 3 and the 1 part. I'm putting as the striker, Klaus, hands down. Then the attacking midfield, I'm thinking Hartel would probably be great there. And then on the left or right wing, I don't know yet, Teuchert, and then Indy is going to be my other winger. There's no spot for Thor. I'm sorry. Like, he's not good enough to replace one of those players. He's just not. Even if we do the 4-4-2 diamond, I would actually love to see this, by the way. I would love to see Teuchert and Klaus up top because I think that play between the two, hopefully we could see something like Giochini from last year with kind of Klaus being the main striker and then as a sub-striker being the Teuchert. The attacking mid, I would love to see Hartel, and then Leuven and Indy on the wings, and then have Durkin as the back defensive midfielder. How awesome would that be?
No, that's going to be our team. I think you just described the lineup. Like, that's it right there. And that's what it should be. And it's going to be so amazing. It's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's finally like actually a decent lineup.
Yep. And the rest of this year and into next year, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, we're going to see tweets, we're going to see Facebook posts about how Thor should be the next, or the striker, and I not yet. Like, just you got to show me consistent,
right? And we're going to have
this.
Just we have Ostrak and Celio back next year. I mean, Ostrak and I'm back this year, but like Celio next year, this team is going to be stacked. This team is going to be stacked. Someone like Thor is going to be a sub, which is probably what he should be. I don't think he should be our starting striker. I don't think anyone is expecting this guy to be that, and no one should. And he has to do it now because he has to. It's like a backup quarterback that all of a sudden has to be a starter. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, He's a great backup. He should not be starting. So
I'll give you some stats here. So Thor, and this is per 90, right? So Thor per 90 has 0.31 goals. And expected goals, he's at 0.49. So 0.49 versus 0.31, which means that his expected goals is higher than his goals. So that's telling me that he does not have that clinical finishing ability. Right. Because if somebody who has good finishing ability, like if you look at the top strikers in our league, they're probably going to have goals that exceed their expected goals, because the expected goals is essentially like the average player, like the composite average player at that spot.
So you asked for the offensive, defensive, and wooden spoon. So my offensive is there. My defensive, even though it doesn't line up with the FOT mob and what people think, it's got to be Parker, just because of the effect he had on the entire game. I realized some of the other defenders, like Watts, had a hell of a game, but Watts wasn't back there stopping those shots. Watts wasn't back there stopping. Every time Malone missed the ball, Parker had to. Parker made this one block where he intentionally kicked his foot back and kicked it out of bounds. Like, he knew the ball was going to be there, and he bloop and kicked it out. Like, that is a pro move. That is a move you make as someone who's been playing a sport for over a decade, and like Parker has. That was it right there. It was great to see him just playing mean. And he had to against someone like Russell, who's going to come down built like a hockey player, but has the guts of a Fabergé egg. He fell constantly, but he's built like a big tough guy, but he's not. But Parker had to be back there, and it was great to see. I don't know about the wooden spoon. You can give it to Bloom as a starter. Give it to Marcanic for going out there and just standing around when he came on the sub. It was just really pathetic to see him not running out there and not just being crazy to try to get a starting gig again. Like, I think he's figuring out what he is. And so that was my wooden spoon. What was your offensive, defensive, and wooden spoon?
Yeah, so I would say Parker and Berkey easy. That's so obvious in my opinion. Right. Wooden spoon, definitely Blom. I just felt like he was such a liability, which I felt like in the right sort of game, those could have easily have turned to goals. I think we got lucky there.
Yeah.
And I offensive, I would actually probably have to say Leuven, just because he sets up everything. You could tell the best times that we have the attack were when he was involved. I'm not saying that every time, like just in general, like not every time he is involved in the play that scores, but he gives you your best chances overall. And I think this game just highlights it, honestly.
Well, yeah, and people have to account for him on the field. Like,
exactly. Yeah. You can't leave him unmarked. You really, really have to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
So, Steve, we have our game goal, no goal. How about hitting a few before we go tonight?
Okay, so here's one for you, AJ. Nick Newman from the St. Louis City SC fan page says, I know I'm going to get crushed out here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Hot take alert. I was a keeper, played a lot of it. Berkey didn't need to be on the post on that goal. Yes, defense needs to mark. However, that ball was in the air a long time. If he's not on the post there, he had a good chance to get to that cross. So, goal or no goal, Berkey's trash.
Yeah, I think Berkey did exactly what he was supposed to do. So I'm going to say no goal on that take, because essentially with that set piece there, Berkey took the near post, like I believe he should have been. The problem is, I mean, think about this, right? If you've ever stood in front of a soccer net, it is huge.
Yes.
Like one little goalie, even though this guy is like, I don't know, 7 feet tall, he's probably like 6'6" or something, but still he feels like he's 7 foot tall with this giant wingspan. He still is dwarfed by the opening of that net.
Yeah.
You need help. And the thing is the most vulnerable spot, in my opinion, is going to be that near post. You need to have your defense not just let somebody just easily head the ball in like that. You need people going up and challenging that ball. And then you also need people blocking that guy from even making that move. Yeah. a lot of times on set pieces, you usually have people who are moving around, and then you kind of have blockers as well. I feel like we needed somebody there protecting it. So I'm going to go with no goal. What about you?
Yeah, that's a no goal. I think it was pretty accepted that Hebert was out of position, allowed that goal to happen. The goalie is just one person. The goalie can't stop everything. So yeah, that was a hot take, and it didn't need to be had.
So I got one for you. Ready? This is actually from Kansas City fans. So one guy had said, Head Hurt 21, our seats were not too far from the STL fan section. I couldn't hear a damn thing. Then another guy said, I wasn't too close, but they were still drowning out the cauldron, which if people don't know, the cauldron is their like supporter group area. Is there an MLS rule that says opposing team supporter sections have to be allowed to bring in drums? Like I dig the energy in the stadium with the opposing section that's active. It's fun, but allowing drums is a weird kind of thing, like kind of giving home field advantage. So do you think it should be banned that the opposing fans can bring any kind of drums or any kind of noisemakers, anything like that?
No, because here's the thing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If MLS allows the supporters group to bring in drums and they allow flags. I was at the march in for the April and they check everything. So it's 100% legit. It's up to the home team to stop the away team from being louder. The away team only gets a small sliver of a section, maybe like actually 50 seats or so. And it's up to the home team to prevent fans from taking over their stadium. I did see pictures from the stadium, and there was a lot of red in that stadium. And that's on Kansas City. That ain't on St. Louis. That's not on MLS. That's on those bums from Kansas. Now, I got to tell you. Go ahead.
Did you see the supporter section? Like at the end of the game where you know how the team goes up to the supporter section? Did you see that?
I did.
In Kansas City, there was like maybe like 20 people in the stands. And then the camera pans over to City. And then like there's this huge section of, I don't know, like 100 people, 150 St. Louis fans. And it was just like that huge difference between the two. So yeah, if you didn't see it, like definitely check that out. But sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's on the home team. I did see that the fans were complaining there's a lot of red throughout the entire stadium. When we were there in April, the supporter section spilled out into the standing room only. Now, if you've never been to Kansas City, it's a little different than a city park. Like the entire 100 level realm is all standing room only. You can walk behind there and just stand. It's a little different than a city park where it's mostly like shops and stuff. But we were crowded pretty deep there, and it looked like it was a lot more there. If the team doesn't want fans from the other side to come in, lock down zip codes for purchases, lock down other stuff. We went to Chicago last year, and that was a game we wound up losing. But like there was almost 50-50 City and Fire fans. The Fire has been a lot more miserable for a lot longer than Kansas City has. But like we had to drive over about 5 hours to get there. So those City fans drove over 5 hours to support their team. And if the Kansas people can't drive to their own stadium, which is out in the middle of nowhere, it's a dump, that's on them. No, because I would welcome our away team to have their drums too. Now, I haven't seen any yet for the couple games I've been, but I would love to see a visiting fan section really get loud. Well, the La Liga teams, their fans travel, and they took over City Park last year for the Leagues Cup. So like that happened to us. We're not crying about it, cowards.
Okay, I got another good one for you. It's my last one of the evening here. So Kane Goes to Games on Twitter says, hot take time. I hope City doesn't try in the Leagues Cup. I hope we save our energy for the remainder of the MLS season and focus on another push for the playoffs.
Another one?
Goal or no goal?
No goal. I mean, we should at least try. We should at least make an effort, because that same fan that's saying that is going to have a massive complaint if City bows out in the first round. It's going to be, oh, I knew it. This team just doesn't care about these. They want an extra win. All they care about is some of them. So I'm like, someone's always going to complain about something. So no matter what the team does, it's going to be wrong. You know, you can't make all the Nancy's happy, I guess. What about you? Is that a goal or no goal?
It's no goal. I think we should go for the League's Cup. I get that there's all this contention, everything about the League's Cup, but this is our chance. This is almost like treat it like a serious preseason games. Like we have new players. We got GR, we got Teuchert, we got Hartel. We got to get this chemistry. This is the perfect time to treat this as a real game. Don't put these guys out and then just put chumps in as replacements. Put your A team out there and let's do something. The thing is let's say you don't win these 2 games. That's fine. At least we got the practice. You still have a couple weeks before we start. I think it's on August 24th. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Right. So August 4th, I think, is when we play the Mexican team.
Yes.
So you have 20 days. You also don't want people to get out of fitness either. Put your A team out there. And if we make a run, go for it. What's the worst thing that happens? We actually kind of start grooving here. Like I'm not currently, as our team stands, I don't have confidence on the rest of our season.
Right.
Use this to kind of propel you. Yeah, you may get tired and you may fizzle out in September, like the last part of August into September. Wow. Like we're not going to, right now as it stands, we're not going to go to playoffs anyways. So if we fizzle out, then we fizzle out because we overworked our players. Well, that's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. It's easy to take pot shots on a guy that's not here anymore, but Cornell refusing to put out a strong team for the Open Cup and the Leagues Cup last year kind of irked me because we basically showed we did not care about these matches at all. And I didn't know then if it was like him or the team saying we're not going to be putting our guys at risk, but like, especially when we were really faltering in the second half of the season, like it would have been great for us to make a good showing in Leagues Cup, but we didn't. We put out basically our C squad, and that was really disappointing. I was at a music concert for my son on one of the Open Cup, and when I saw that Lump was starting goal, I was like, good, they're just gonna mail this one in, which is ridiculous. And we were still in good form then. There's no need for that. So let's go ahead and put our best team out there, and especially since I think 100%. They're going to have to. I think last year they had an excuse because we were in first place, everything was rolling, everything was cooking, but we're not now. We're not in first place. We are far from first place. So I think it'll be good. I got one more for you. I'm going to have to edit myself a little bit here.
All right, let's hear it.
Some goober from Kansas on Reddit said, "Go SKC, F St. Louis. Honestly, a disgusting city full of terrible people. Goal or no goal?"
Yeah. That's definitely a no goal. I just don't understand it, and I hate to harp on this, but I don't understand. Like St. Louis, we make like little jokes about like how the barbecue sucks in Kansas City, and then we just kind of leave it there, right? But we rarely start saying F KC or KC should get blown off the face of the earth and stuff like that. You see that all the time. Why are they just so obsessed about our destruction? Like it's almost like it's like hardcore in their identity. Like there's just so much hate there. Why the hate? Like give me
I honestly think it's just because we came out so strong last year, and this team sucked all the attention, and we were supposed to come out and win 2 games last year because we were the expansion team. No expansion team is supposed to do what we did, and the team did it. And yeah, it was astronomical the beginning of this season, and I saw so much hate on Reddit last year for the team, and I honestly think that's what caused it. And then this stupid lawsuit that the team did with River City Ramble. Like, really, you're going to sue a podcast about the soccer capital, and then that sparked it. But it all just seems like petty bullshit that these people have nothing else to do but complain, and they just want to hate and be mean. And I don't think that's the St. Louis way. That's a weird thing to say, but I don't think that is. I don't think the sports, like, we're too busy shitting on ourselves. We're too busy like knowing we could win the World Series and be like, oh, man, it's never going to happen again, is it? Like, the Blues won for their first World Series in 2019. And already people are like, I don't know about that Bennington guy. I don't know if he's going to last. Like, it was insane. But it goes the other way. we had a special guest that was a Fire fan, and like I kind of see the same attitude with the Fire fans about themselves. Like they're worried about their own ability. They're not worried about other fans. Like when we went up there to St. Louis, it was a great experience. And when we went to Chicago, it was a great experience. They didn't really seem to be bothered by us. It was the opposite in Kansas City. Like I just think they are, like you said, I think they're like they're like the little brother to St. Louis, and like bros. We don't. It may go down to the Royals and the Cardinals in that '85 season, and
Maybe.
we came back in '87, and then they won in 2015 or so, whatever they won their last World Series. Like they really want to be on our level. I mean, they just ain't. Power Light District is cool. The rest of Kansas City sucks. Like,
So speaking of which, before we recorded this podcast, we actually had a special edition that Steve will tell us about. We actually had a special guest. And no, it was not Steve's mom. It was actually somebody else. Steve, what can you tell us and preview that episode?
So we actually are conducting a series of interviews with supporters groups. We feel like a lot of attention's been given to the big supporter groups, if you will. Like I've got the Luligans, and I got them there, and some of these other groups, and we want to target the groups that are working hard to kind of build their brand. And we're going to see these interviews get pushed out, and our goal is to be interviewing as many of the supporter groups as possible. And so if you're a supporter group, or a supporter group that may want to kind of expand their footprint, give us a shout out, and we'll have you on. You can talk all about your group, and it's been really neat. And I don't want to give away the ghost of who was first, but like it's a pretty cool group, and I'm really excited about doing that. So I feel blessed that we were able to do that. So yeah, the supporter groups, get in contact with your old buddy May Zipper, and we'll get you on. Give it the old zip attack, I guess. Sounds like a Diddy thing. I don't know, man. I got to work on that. I got to workshop that one.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, just May Zipper and our other accounts, Twitter, will definitely drop it. You also see it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and you can check these guys out. It's a good chance to check out these other supporter groups, see what they're about, and it's really exciting. St. Lugan's, of course, is great supporter groups and all these other bigger ones, but it's just really exciting to see the kind of fan base that we have here in St. Louis already. And we're in our second year, and we have all these groups. It's really, really awesome. On that note, Steve, I think it's time to go into next week. Hopefully, City brings in some wins in League's Cup. More importantly, I want to see the team gel together with these new guys. I want to see Cartel kick some butt and really show what these guys, all this hype was about.
Yeah. So we've got Dallas coming into town next Saturday. And we're going to have Hartle and Toy-Gert and JGR. He came on, and he was pretty good last night. We're going to have most of our new squad in there. So get out there, support the team. And, it's going to be exciting. We will have an episode following that game and following, I guess, FC Suarez, which is going to be exciting. If we understand that if you're not into the Leagues Cup because of the MLS trying to kill off the Open Cup right now, but we feel that content is important, especially since we got these new players that are going to be playing together for the first time, and we get to watch them, I guess, in real time develop their partnership with each other. So we are definitely excited about that, and we hope you are too. So, next week, baby, I've got a home match. Gateway to hell. Let's especially since they're a Western Conference rival, so we can kind of smack them around. Maybe they won't bring their best. We're bringing our best, and we can remind them what's going to happen after the break.
Yeah. Well, on that note, see you guys next week.
All right, all for City.